Sound of Money with Santosh Sirur.
Hello and welcome to another super special episode. This is the Sound of Money and its 100th series. I have a very special guest joining in from Bengaluru or Bangalore. I still love to say that. And joining me live on, of course, our 100 plus episodes that we have into, and you've been with me on the podcast. Joining me from Bengaluru is Mr. Anuj Agrawal. So Anuj is the founder and CEO of the Zyoin Group and also the Workplace Awards. We're going to get to know a lot more about that. But let's introduce our guest. Hi, Anuj, and welcome to the Sound of Money.
Hey, Santosh, thanks for having me here. It's so wonderful to catch up with you here.
Most welcome, Anuj, and really look forward to know a lot more about your company and the awards and your persona and your career maybe. So let me kickstart with my first question. Actually, I have in mind for you. So
Sure.
Anuj, you started the Join Group almost a decade ago.
Couple of decades, actually.
Couple of decades, right? So, what was that moment you decided to quit the corporate path and build your own company? The reason I ask you in today's world, right? A lot of people are kind of on that edge. Should we take a call or not and move on into our space? Probably your answer, your response is going to be a bit of an inspiration for them.
Sure. I wouldn't say I have a very long corporate history. I think I was young, naive, and probably dumb. And why I say that is because I hardly spent 1.5, 2 years working, and I said, yeah, I want to be an entrepreneur, and this is what it is. So I don't call myself a talent person while I run a talent company. Uh, I call myself an entrepreneur. I wanted to do business, so that's what I could understand, and just jumped into that piece of it without putting a lot of thoughts in it. Ki, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what will probably work out. I could understand that this is an opportunity,
Yeah.
and I wanted to grab that opportunity.
Okay.
If I were to give you a little more deep dive onto what was happening around that time, so I graduated from college around 2003 from NITK Suratkal. Then came to Bangalore. Was not necessarily in mood to get into a job or of sorts, but really was keen to explore. Say, let me prepare for my MBA exams and do some CAT or something like that. Get into some IIM, and that was the path I wanted to choose for myself. But then what happened was I came across an opportunity of an organization which was fairly a startup, wanted to build a business around recruitment, specifically for campus. They wanted someone who was quite young, uh, who fresh out of campus knows the who's and what really works in the campus, and wanted that person to drive it. So I got an amazing opportunity of building something from scratch there. Spent 2 years with them, and then said, ki, hey, there are more opportunities out there which I want to do. So I did not learn this business which I was getting into it, but I had a sense of that business. The business or the market was very unique at that time, if I were to say. India was moving from a IT services revolution, BPO revolution, to a start of organizations looking to do engineering, product development of sorts, and stuff like that. There was a plethora of funded startups coming in who wanted to hire the best engineering minds and wanted to do product development, considering that India was a much more cheaper cost option. And but for me, it was very evident that my beginning from a college which was NITK, I was well connected to top tier engineering talent. I also belong to a place called Bhilai, which typically produces a lot of IITs. So I had a lot of friends who were from IITs and stuff like that. I realized that I am in a very right place for building something around the recruitment space with the whole thought ki, hey, there is a big amount of hiring or big amount of change which is going to happen in market, which is going to be about product. It's going to be about engineering, and a lot of this would require IITians. So the best engineering minds in the country, let's not say IITians alone, but best engineering minds. And I'm well connected to that market. And this is the market which will continue to grow and build on. And hence said, ki, let me go ahead and start this piece right now, because this is going to happen a lot more
Yeah.
in the country, and I'll be
Mm.
enabling that.
Yeah. So Anuj, the early days of Zoin were about like executive search, I guess, and it's just 2 years that you've just moved into this your business. What was that kind of that hardest lesson, if you may say so, you learned in that one particular that still guides you even today?
So I never learned business development, and I was too young,
Hmm.
very fresh,
Yeah. Hmm.
out of college. I
Yeah.
only knew my college friends, my school friends,
Yeah.
and I think I started using them, reaching out to them. I did not know business
Yeah.
development.
Yeah.
I had hardly spent time in trying to understand those customers, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So quickly started spending time with a lot of my friends, college
Hmm.
seniors, stuff, meet them, talk to them, ask them to introduce me to their right HR functions, and get a business. So the whole nature of doing business is about relationships. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm in the business of relationships,
Yeah.
and using and making most out of those relationships, not shying away from taking help from all of your connections,
Hmm.
was something which I learned this way. To get more and more opportunities, open more avenues for you. I
Hmm.
had friends who, I mean, I remember my first customer was Yahoo, and
Okay.
and I reached out to one of my college batchmates who had got into campus recruitment. He introduced me to the
That
HR
HR. Hmm. Yeah.
person, and he set up a meeting. I was like, oh my God, I'm directly meeting Yahoo. I've not built, not had experience of doing business, and I literally went on my bike to meet Yahoo at their Yahoo Bank MG Road office and spend time. I don't think I did a very good job in selling, but you know what? I got that customer. So
Yeah.
that was an amazing experience which came into light. And all I say is these relationships are so valuable. Two
Yeah.
things very
Hmm.
important. Build your relationships. Don't shy away of asking help. These are two very important pieces which I learned. And I think I follow it till today. I mean, build my own network, continue to help people and get help.
Absolutely. Can't agree more, Anuj. Important networking, relationships, and I think in all that is also the genuinity that one needs to be, right? I mean, it
True.
makes a lot of difference. So, now in the space that we are in, and AI, right? And that's the word. There's no podcast that can end without this. But of course, more than artificial intelligence, I think in today's world, and especially for you, a business where you're into recruiting, apna intelligence probably for the candidate is more important. So with AI coming into this kind of an industry, right? In a very big way, actually. How are you using this AI without losing that human element in the human capital?
For sure. I think a very, very apt question, I feel. I mean, in general, in Zoin, we say everything is human plus AI. There's
Hmm.
nothing pure AI, there is nothing pure human.
Yeah.
We keep saying that the first 10% of anything you do is human, the
Hmm.
rest 80% could be AI, the end 10% has to be still human. So, what starts it is a human, and what decides it is a human,
Yeah.
if I want to say it in those terms. So, and this is what we try to emulate in everything which we are doing in Zoin, considering that we want to be AI ready rather
Hmm.
than saying AI first.
Yeah.
AI equipped is
Hmm.
what I want to say that. So, I think, in recruitment, again, as I said, business of relationships is what we are in.
Hmm.
So I think for us, our recruiters has to be the one who are engaging with these people who are
Hmm.
job seekers. So
Hmm.
it's not just about talking about a job, but actually having an engagement, understanding what is it that other side is looking for, and then figuring out those pieces
Yeah.
really well from a human side. And as a recruiter, you have your hunches, you have an understanding of patterns.
Hmm.
Resume can lie, LinkedIn profile can lie, job description can be full of fluff. But
Hmm.
I think a recruiter is where those matches or understanding happens, and
Yeah.
the hunch plays a big role.
Hmm.
That's where we use human. Everything else operationally
Yeah.
can have AI. We started using AI for interviewing because technical screening is something maybe our recruiters may not be the most apt people. They are more human understanding people rather than technical understanding
Yeah.
people, and technology keeps evolving.
Yeah.
So we say AI screening from a technical point of view is something which makes sense.
Hmm.
Why it makes sense is, hey, you have already had a candidate who's keen for something. he is looking at an evaluation which helps us understand ki what are their abilities. And this could be done as per the convenience of candidate.
Yeah.
This is not limited by any human bias. So
Yeah.
we know that validation. And that's where we say we use AI. We use AI in the coordination, the mail, the context setting, so many other things. I mean, you can always modify your
Yeah.
conversations in a way that it's much more communicatable.
True.
And I think all of these spaces we start using AI. And then obviously once the candidate is offered, and I would say everything, other piece of it can have a lot of AI in it, is where again human comes in because that's where you want to sense the person's choice,
Yeah.
negotiate these
Yeah.
pieces, inform them, and give them the trust feeling. Because
True.
at the end of the day, every opportunity which we want to deal with has to have that trust, and the trust can only come from human and not from any machine.
True. True.
This is what I can easily say or point it out.
Yeah.
So I think human plays a very important role
Yeah.
in the relationship, in the connect, in the trust part of it.
Yeah.
Everything else could be AI.
Absolutely. And then that I think is the last stage is, that most sensitive and, the personalized connect makes a huge difference, right?
Look,
So,
I mean, I and you can easily say that our AI replica of you or me would do a better job than what we are doing. But here we are because there is a personal connect to it.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, Anuj, when it comes to India's talent market, right? It's, I guess now kind of the place that you are in Bengaluru, and of course the South essentially, splitting in that like the GCCs versus the startups versus the traditional corporations, the banks, etc. How should how would you actually choose a candidate, right? Or even a candidate actually kind of choose because now he has or she has options, right? What are the kind of parameters or the kind of thresholds one can look at in terms of their skill sets and expectations in the 2026 and 26 and beyond that we're talking about between these three?
Sure. I think I'll give you the India context for sure
Sure.
from that point. I think a candidate, obviously, when they look at it, it's if you look at all of these three options, has their own uniqueness, has their own strengths, and have their own cons, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to simplify it, there are people who more like, I want a government job because
Yeah.
it's safe, secured, peaceful,
Mm.
versus someone who is like, I'm looking for more money, and I think that's where a private job makes sense. I mean, I'm trying to simplify it so that everybody understands that part. So I think a candidate decides based on what is their calling, right?
Mm. Mm.
I mean, you can find good opportunities in all three segments, be it like the corporate segment, the startup segment, or the GCC. What are you made for, and what is your aspiration? That is what should define it, because everything has a plenty of opportunities, and you can be right fit for it, and you
Yeah.
can be right fit for everything.
Yeah.
And again, it would again depend on what economical mindset you are. Are you looking at much more stability, or are you looking at quick bucks, or are
Mm.
you having a very high risk appetite? What is it that you have should define it, rather than us saying ki this is a great choice, that is a bad choice. I if yeah, but then again, you also have to understand what works best in each of the industry. Right. So if you are young, energetic, don't shy away working 24 by 7 based on, because you're gonna work in a startup
Mm.
uh, uh, per se. So you need to be having that mindset, because startup is limited by resources, not because startups want you to work 24 by 7.
Mm. Mm.
It's like they are limited by resources. There are only few people who are doing, so 5 people team is doing a 50 people job, right? So you actually wear shoes of 10 people, which means you have to slog it out.
Mm.
So are you ready for that? Or are you in a stage where you need to spend more time with the family? You need to have something else which is much more high priority. You have parents to take care of. All of that, so probably may not fit into. So
Mm.
startup, you have to have that mindset that you have a very high risk-taking appetite because things may not work. You have also a mindset that, hey, I can put in a lot more hours. And obviously, the when you take a high risk, the output is equally high. So you actually have a rags to riches story for yourself.
Mm. Yeah.
The other aspect could be a GCC. If somebody is particularly looking to be in GCC, they have to be understanding that you are going to be working with two sets of stakeholders, which is a challenging work. When you have a headquarters stakeholder and a local stakeholder, you have to manage both, and both have different cultural nuances.
Mm.
Both are operating in different time zones. So, are you good enough to communicate well to both parties?
So,
Are you able to build that confidence across both those parties
mm,
and still deliver and get to work on some of the best global customers, work on some things, technologies which are going to be used globally? I
mm,
think GCCs could be an
yeah,
opportunity for you.
yeah, yeah,
Right. And
absolutely.
so on and so forth. So, I mean, again, defining what your core strengths are should define what the path you choose. And all of these three opportunities could be really amazing.
Absolutely. It's a very, especially when you mentioned GCCs, and today when we talk of India, and then you have, morning emails are already inboxed from the Asia Pac or the Australia, and evenings while you leave, the US starts waking you up in a way, right? And there's a very interesting anecdote I kind of must share. One of my friends used to work in India, and he used to have his one-to-one with boss in Singapore. Now, see, by the time you wake up, it's 9 a.m., you're just fresh, just getting set and like, but there you have it's 11:30, 12 there, lunchtime. So the mood is in a different zone already, right? So he would actually have his colleague within that team in Singapore tell him the weather conditions of his boss, you know, to to plan out. So these matter, right? These matter the way. Because for you, it may be a different time zone, but the person out there in a totally different. So yeah, the exciting times of managing Asia Pac and Europe and all.
Yeah, I got a sense of it personally very recently when I was with my co-founder in Australia, and by the time we were meeting customers or prospective
Yeah.
customers. By the time we were done with the first three meetings, I think India was just waking up. I was like, I and my co-founder were super ready, super charged that what we have to convey to the team in India.
Absolutely. So
I,
much
I'm sure.
important to keep in mind, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you launched workplace awards, right? And tell us a little more about that when it comes to these awards, and not just awards about the culture, the employer brand, right? And kind of the gap that you see, that made you say, well, this needs to exist. So tell us a little bit about the workplace awards.
Sure. I think it's something I would say workplace awards happened 3 years back, but
Mm,
in our minds as business owners,
yeah.
we had known that this is a need which is there for a while, right?
Mm,
So I'll talk you to through the need which we really saw. So whenever we used to spend a lot of time with our customers, a lot of them would ask us questions. What's the competitor's culture?
mm,
What are they doing differently? And I
mm,
mean, we would have certain insights which we would love to share based on our existence in the market and our playing market. But I always used to feel that, hey, there is so much more.
mm,
And had it been a way there could be a direct interaction, I think a lot of learning can happen and both can benefit out of it.
yeah.
Right. And that's where the concept came in ki, hey, there needs to be a platform where like-minded or similar organizations in nature can get to engage, interact of sorts.
Mm,
Now, this is not just the piece, right?
mm,
You still are looking to improve or transform your workplace in many ways.
yeah.
One has to be a benchmark set, right?
Yeah.
Who are the top-notch organizations in my space
Mm,
and how do I qualify? So I have to have a benchmark. Then I also need mentors. I need guides who have done it.
mm,
I need to have thought leaders talking, sharing knowledge.
mm,
How can we do enable that?
yeah.
Third, networking is something which I talked about, interaction between peers.
Mm,
And the final piece to it, again, we thought through is that there are a lot of enablers for this. I mean, Zyoin can help in transformation when it comes to talent. But I mean, that's not the only transformation a workplace look at, right?
yeah.
There are so
Yeah.
many other transformations and there has to be association to it. And this is where our whole platform was built on four pillars:
Mm,
recognition, recognizing the best;
yeah.
inspiration by thought leadership;
Mm,
connection through networking;
yeah.
and association is all the organizations which can help you in this transformation. So we said it RICA. RICA is what built Workplace Awards.
Mm,
We uh, we were we are still believing that we want to be market agnostic. We
mm,
are not saying that we are one focus market, but we chose the space of GCCs.
yeah.
We felt that there is a clear-cut need, and this need is much more stronger. in the space of GCCs because there are so many new ones coming, so many existing ones are already there.
Yeah.
So there is a space of learning and knowledge sharing, which is definitely there. There is also a need for recognition. I mean, none of these GCCs, if you look at, would have customer base in India,
Yeah.
which means, I mean, you would not know what a company like Target is.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
not experienced that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so on. I mean, and I'm
Yeah.
just giving one example, but there are hundreds and thousands of all of these examples
Yeah.
where the customer base is not, and this could be a Fortune 500 company out
True.
sitting, but
Absolutely.
until unless you have seen them as a customer, you will not recognize them. You will
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
recognize Airtel, you will
Yeah.
probably recognize Infosys, but you
Yeah.
will not recognize something which is not heard of, right?
Completely. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right. Which is where the recognition piece also became a very important angle to it. And we
Yeah.
started saying that, hey, GCC space is what we ventured into.
Mm.
And thankfully, at that time, GCC events were not something which were very common. We
Yeah.
were the first one to took it up.
Uh-huh.
Event was the platform we chose to
Yeah.
build on, while
Yeah.
recognition framework was something which we were continuously building, evolving. We felt it has to be a data-driven framework. It has to be driven with a lot of algorithmic approach to it, rather than saying, ki, hey, we want a jury because jury can have their human side of it, which
Yeah.
can bring sort of biases. Not saying that jury is a bad choice, but we said ki we will go with data, and data should what is define our recognition platform, because we are
Mm.
not just choosing one or two or three, we are choosing a larger set of people amongst
Yeah.
the nominations which are coming. So we built this whole platform with this, and thankfully, in 3 years, we have gained a lot of prestige to our recognition. I would like to say, we are one of the most prestigious recognition in the GCC space.
Wonderful.
And our event is highly valued because of the amount of leaders which show up.
Mm.
Just to give you a sense, the last year, our event is the largest GCC event in the country, which had 400 plus GCCs
Wow.
attending,
Mm.
and 66% of the attendees were GCC or I would say leaders, decision makers, and we are continuing that race of being the largest, and nobody has still beat our previous event. And this year we are doing even more larger event with about 1,200 attendees and hoping to see 500 GCCs, essentially saying that 25% of GCCs of the country are going to be part of this. So,
Absolutely
yeah.
amazing. Yeah, absolutely. But when it comes to these awards, Anuj, in terms of differentiation, especially in methodology and just credibility, I think you guys have already established. But if you could add a little more on the methodology in which you guys, because it's not an easy job in that sense, because as you rightly said, like Target, right? Target, yes, the world knows it, but India still doesn't know it. But from that lens, when you see how are these benchmarks or thresholds arrived at?
Sure. So I think one which lives make is the GCCs are generally structured almost in the same way. If you look at even from a retail segment or even a technology first company, or be it a healthcare,
Yeah.
all of them are different domains,
Hmm.
but structurally they are doing digital technology transformation in it. So if you look at it, all of them are technology companies in India.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So we've put them in one clean scale
Hmm.
of GCCs,
Hmm.
and which helps us in making our life easier, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because all of them are of a similar nature
Correct. Yeah.
in
Hmm.
operations. The
Hmm.
differentiation could be that some of them are having a back office kind of
Yeah.
a thing, plus a technology center or a pure technology center. That's being the primary way to look at it.
Hmm.
Now, that scale being easy,
Hmm.
we go about this process in a very detailed lens.
Hmm.
8 months before we actually start, actually when we do our event, right?
Hmm.
Which means we go about asking for nominations.
Hmm.
These nominations, when they come to us, we validate the information.
Hmm.
First and the foremost validation which we do is to figure out is it a GCC, is it not a GCC? Because
Yeah.
there are a lot of people who claim to be GCC.
GCC.
So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
define our own
Hmm.
process
Metrics for
of
that. Yeah.
saying, because there
Hmm.
is no standardized this thing. So yeah, there are certain golden rules, but in general, it's for us, there are certain patterns which we look at it, and that's how we define a GCC. Easy way to say is key headquarters is not in India. The other easier way to say is the founder is not sitting out of India. It's a GCC. Right. Or if you have more than 85% of your team in India, then you are not a GCC. These three things are
Parameters makes
very
no sense.
easy parameters.
Mm.
One of the other rules which we have used, but I don't think it works completely well, is that hey, you are not doing business in India, which I would not want to say because futuristically I would see more and more GCCs doing business in India,
Absolutely.
considering that they understand the Indian consumer market
Yeah. Yeah.
and the B2B market as well, right?
Yeah.
So I would not want to call that as the primary decision point for us, but yeah, everything else is something which we definitely look at when we are looking at defining a GCC.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's the first piece of
Yeah.
filtration where we validate it's a GCC.
Yeah.
If it's not a GCC, the nomination is not useful.
Mm.
If it's a GCC, is it coming from the right point of contact? Because many a times these nominations could be extremely tricky, right?
Yeah.
So somebody who's just not the right decision maker reaches out. And then we obviously have an understanding of who could be the decision maker and who's not the decision maker, making sure that the nomination is a valid nomination in terms of all of that. Now, once that is done, we share a detailed survey form, and we say survey form or questionnaire. These forms are digitally filled. We've used several platforms to use it, but all in all, we try to capture data points. Data points such as growth rates, comparable growth rates in terms of what is global growing, India growing, attrition rates, policy frameworks, structures, what has worked for them, define them on full scale parameters. So, I mean, cover all the possible avenues. Add to this is where our research, so I mean, once this form is filled, our research team not just limit themselves to the form field because it could be that somebody might say that I've grown by 40%, but the reality may be very different.
Yeah.
So we cross-verify these information through our own internal databases. An easy way to say is that LinkedIn is a very good source to verify how fast you are growing in India and what is the attrition rates and stuff like that. You can get all of these very meaningful information. We add to that also various internet-based reviews. Put that all of them in one chart, and then that's where our algorithm starts playing in. Start ranking each one of them, saying that these are the companies based on all of these aspects. We start scoring, giving them marks for each of these data points. These are mostly data points. Then the subjective parts, ranking comes in. But we first focus on the data points which we have received as clear-cut numbers which are very measurable. Right? And those define a minimum benchmark which we have set for ourselves. We see those patterns, right? This is the minimum bare minimum average every organization has. So take that as the minimum benchmark. Anything below that and cut them off. Anything above that is where we rank it. We typically, because the number of applicants in the first year to the today has continuously increased. First year we received about 400 odd nominations. Second year we received 800, and this year we have reached 1400 nominations. Right. So as we increase, we say that anyone who has done a pretty decent job should get recognized, and that's where we make sure that we filter that piece out, cut off, and all of that is and in case of dilemma is where we go to the subjective data points which we have again measured and ranked, and then put those pieces to decide between any ties which are happening. So it's closely done, very well monitored, and I would say extremely transparent. So anyone today comes back to me say ki, how much did I score versus somebody else? I can give you a relative point of view. And again, we are continuously trying to modify these algorithms every year. When we go back, we understand what worked perfectly and what did not, and
Mm.
keep
Learning
modifying
on it.
it.
Yeah. Mm.
And gladly, what has happened is that this framework is not just internally used by workplace awards.
Mm.
We have Bangalore Skills Summit, the corporate recognition which happens in Bangalore Skills Summit
Mm.
uses our platform. So
Oh,
we,
wonderful.
our platform in 3 years
The
of time
recognition has
also.
got it coming. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
The
So we
credibility,
share
right?
all the insights and data because with government or I think there is even more transparency what is needed, and we are able to provide that insights, details,
Yeah.
which can be controlled, and we keep it extremely unbiased.
Very good. I mean, absolutely. I think that's exactly right. The number from what you had 400 to 1,400 now in terms of applications itself is a testament, right? That they are very credible, and it is something that's only growing in India. So
Okay.
now I want to come, Anuj, to the big theme, which is GCCs. The GCCs actually, if you look back, they were those quote unquote back offices, and now to global capability centers. You have been at the center of this shift. Uh, what has changed in terms of the GCCs, the way they were to now they are in the last 3 odd years?
So I think there are two ways if you look at it,
Yeah,
how the GCC world has been evolving. One, obviously, it's right that GCCs have been there for 40 years.
yeah,
First GCC is said to be Texas Instrument, which came in 1984,
mm,
85, which is like 41 years back.
yeah,
And that story has continued. So the first and the foremost aspect which we need to know is essentially what happened post-COVID.
mhm, mm,
Everybody realized remote working works. People can work from anywhere and deliver value, and that's what COVID taught us. And I think that push a very big number of companies having confidence that I can operate from anywhere,
mm,
right? So the volume at which we are seeing the global capability centers happening in India is increasing significantly. So year on year, the growth rate keeps changing.
yeah,
I mean, and that's where I think the numbers and the norms which were set for 2030 has to be continuously evolving. One
mm,
point of time, some of the surveys said 20 by 2030, we'll have about 2,400, best case, 2,200 to 2,400 GCCs.
mhm,
And we are at 2026, and we already have almost close to 2,200 GCCs in
yeah,
India.
imagine.
And those are officially claimed numbers, right?
Yeah,
So the growth rate is growing very significantly. Now, coming to the GCCs, which
mm,
are coming up in India today,
mm,
they are looking to do more because they consistently have believed that India talent can just not be a back office, just cannot be someone who can be doer. They see Indians delivering more value at a better price, at a
mm,
better cost. We still carry the cost arbitrage
yeah,
thing with us, and that is also something which is always charming to have, right? You
mm,
can do a great value at a cheaper cost
got it.
is something which has been driving. So more and more GCCs today are having very strong AI mandates. In fact, 58% of the GCCs today
Mm,
claim to be driving AI approach. They want to be AI native, and India is the center where they are looking at it. They are looking to do innovation, enterprise innovation, and not just we tell you this and you do that. It's still there,
mm,
but a lot of these companies are saying, ki, hey, India decides what needs to be done next,
mm,
right? And the third phase, which I was talking about, is ki more and more GCCs have started to think India as a business opportunity also.
yeah,
Having that confidence in talent and having the hope of doing business in India is driving these GCCs to do more out of India. So more and more, I would say, India has become HQ minus one
mhm,
or a strategic value hub
mm,
for the GCCs, and we would in the coming years see it more. What is also adding to this is because the trust is continuously
yeah,
increasing with India,
yeah,
the number of global roles sitting out of India is growing exponentially.
mm,
I have not got the updated numbers, but as I see last time, about pre-COVID times, we had about 1,500 global roles in India. Today, it has grown to 6,500, probably closer to 7,000, 7,500 roles.
mm, mm,
And by 2030, with the proportional exponential growth which it's seeing, this can be anywhere between 30 to 40,000 global roles sitting out of India.
Wow. Yeah.
So you'll have global readers,
Mm.
decision makers sitting out of India
Yeah.
and operating and creating value,
Mm.
which means you will actually do almost everything what the headquarters does from
Absolutely.
India.
Absolutely. Fully, yeah, fully. I can understand where this is eventually heading in this decade, right? So you mentioned about the cost advantage or the arbitrage that one has, but I'm sure from a talent standpoint also India does have that talent, that commitment, more importantly. So in terms of the functions that GCCs are been hiring currently and aggressively in the 2026, what do you think in the next, if you have to have a crystal ball, what are the kind of next 2 years you see? What kind of areas, functions there you see, growing, and there is demand?
Right. So, I mean, I think everybody knows that with AI, and I think it's a lot to do with what is happening around the AI
Yeah,
space,
yeah.
more and more repetitive tasks will reduce, and
Mm,
more and more meaningful task or is what you want. So, a lot of the AI transformation piece
mm,
for organizations will happen out of India. So,
okay.
which means a lot of skill would be hired around the space where there would be engineers who are actually like ML, Ops,
Mm,
LLM engineers, stuff like that. That will happen in India. That's the development piece. Then there are a lot of forward deployment engineering and stuff like that, which means you actually build your platform to solve the problem of your end customer at a much faster way, understanding the ecosystem which is where operating it
yeah.
happens. So a lot of AI development and a lot of AI deployment will happen,
Mm,
and all of the skills which are primarily going to be hired in the next couple of years is around that.
mm,
And that's also because of what is there in the market, right?
yeah,
AI is changing everything in a very large way, and
yeah,
because of which when there's such massive shift which happens, there is chaos,
yeah.
there is job loss, but there is also new job creations.
True. Yeah.
And that's where what we are seeing, ki more and more today with us, we see a more and more new jobs being created, and a more and more higher value jobs are being created out of India. And that's where the
Mm.
focus is moving to.
Okay. Very recently, Anuj, the Honorable Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman made a kind of a statement during a CII conference where she said there is a need for the right skill set that needs to be in the GCC space. So she asked for the industry to work very much in tandem with the universities just to have a right curriculum so that you meet the job required is also matching with the kind of skill sets coming in. So what are your views on it? Because you do scan of those CVs that come to you, and is it really matching, or what are the skill sets not really they are up to that mark?
So I think a very right thing, and not something which is new to
Mm,
the world. If you
yeah,
if you are in corporate or you are in the industry which is hiring, you would always say there is a big skill gap. I mean, just
yeah,
to give you an idea,
mm,
India produces 1.5 million engineers every year.
mm,
Right. So with so many
wow,
engineers, are there equal number of jobs? That's first question which comes across to my mind. The
yeah,
second more important is only a very few percentage of them actually do the job which they have learned through their graduation piece,
yeah,
right? So, which also means that there is a real skill gap. Ki there are jobs available where there are no skills. So, you are actually taking an engineer and making them do a job which may not be necessarily aligned to the core degree which this person. And this is something which is massive in India. I mean, I would always say that the top 1 or 2% of India is what we are seeing in these markets, and remaining 98% is really not in it or
yeah,
getting benefited by it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So I think, and that can happen, and India can be the talent powerhouse
mm,
if
mm,
this gap can be filled, not just across GCCs, but beyond. If I
absolutely,
have to say in a very easy word, I would say first look at the soft skill part.
mm,
Hard skills can be always worked at. Hard skills is something industry has always done it.
mm,
It's the soft skills which is definitely missing out in the market.
yeah,
And you discuss with anyone. We talk about communication. I mean, for GCCs, communication is
Most
extremely
important. Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
You are managing the local as well as the global stakeholder, right?
Yeah.
You need to know how to communicate with
Yeah.
them. More
Yeah.
than that, having basic etiquettes of working, where to, how to dress, what to talk,
Absolutely.
how to and so on. I mean, you can just keep
Absolutely.
adding to this list. So I think a lot of skill gap is not just at the hard skills,
Mm.
but also at the soft skills. I mean, we can create universities, we can do various technical courses or whatever is the need be.
Yeah.
But the soft skills will always remain the core. And whatever world you live in, the AI, most AI built world will also require us to communicate. It
Exactly.
may be that we are communicating more to the machine.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I can't
Right?
agree more because I have been soft skills trainer, and when I used to move jobs from my organizations in Hong Kong to India, I can understand how it was pretty big challenge, right, to bring them together. So fully agree with you. Last two questions we wrap before we wrap up, Anuj. India is positioning itself as that talent plus GCC capital of the world. So, kind of one or two things that you think are really important that we need to do as a country uh, before you own that title.
Sure. I think we talked about the first piece of it, the skill gap piece of
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
without a second thought that we can do so much more.
yeah,
We are not just creating blue collar workforce like the
yeah,
delivery, plumbers, electricians. We are probably powering. We are actually in a very good place to power that piece across the world.
mm,
I completely believe in that. But yeah, there is still a lot of the other pieces which we need to. Skill gap is massive
mm,
considering the kind of talent, considering the kind of young workforce which we carry.
yeah,
And this could be across fields, irrespective. I mean, we can talk about GCC, which is a technology driven sector, but beyond it also.
cool.
So that's one piece which we need to
Yeah,
definitely fix. And the other piece I would want to say is the infrastructure piece. We talk about a lot of infrastructure. We
yeah,
talk about we being, I mean, just think of it. We talk about digital infrastructure and so many other things.
yeah,
But do we really have that in place? I mean,
mm,
yeah, probably we did a UPI, but world is also having contactless transactions happening just like
yeah,
that, which
yeah,
doesn't happen in India as much,
mm,
right?
mm,
So I'm saying there's so much more which can be built and done around infrastructures, having some very solid cities coming out of India. I
mm,
mean, cities which can directly compete with likes of Melbourne,
yeah,
Sydney,
yeah,
Middle East, Dubai, Abu Dhabi. I mean, we keep saying we are the largest, fifth largest economy, fourth largest this, fifth that. But all of that should also reflect in the infrastructure.
yeah,
And I would want, if I were to GCC capital, I would look at it. Someone sitting in New York or Seattle, they come to India. There's such a stark difference in what happens there versus India.
yeah,
The
yeah,
chances of them to look up to us becomes even more promising when they see the infrastructure happening in a very big way.
yeah,
So it's a tough one. It's a big problem for us to all of us to solve.
yeah,
But I think it's gonna be very important key to, and we are the capital, by the way. We still have the
ab-
52% of the world's
absolutely.
GCC sitting in
Yeah,
India.
yeah, yeah,
But I think if we have to lead, and I say ki these HQ minus one or even becoming HQ for that, I think we need us to have that massive infrastructure and amazing skill talent.
yeah, yeah,
And I'm sure we will not just become the GCC capital, we will become the capital of the world in terms of
absolutely.
powering so many things.
True, can't agree more. In fact, the infrastructure issue in India, it's really underlined. It's only the monsoons in Mumbai or the situation that you see in and out in South India, North India, right? During these weather calamities, or even otherwise, that you question what's wrong and where things are. For example, okay, Mumbai, I personally in the last 1 year see the kind of development that's happening, be it the coastal road, the sea link, and a lot of things happening beyond the new airport. But there are cities in the world where there are no projects actually, right? And even a U-turn is considered as a ribbon cutting ceremony by the local governments. So that's the scare, right? That's been happening. But yeah, I think it's kind of these discussions like this is probably, the government listens to us and there is some effort being done to make those changes.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
government would want to do a lot of it. And in fact, we're seeing a lot of things happening in Bangalore today. So I'm
okay.
hoping we'll see a big turnaround when it comes to infrastructure, and we'll continue to lead, and probably, if not 52, maybe have 100% of the GCCs of the world.
Absolutely. Anuj, one last question before I let you go. If Join and Workplace Awards, right, achieve everything what you have in mind in the next 5 years, what is that one headline that you would want to see you and your team as a whole at Join?
I think this is something which we discuss every day internally, in a way much more easier question for me to answer. We want to be India's first truly global recruiting firm,
Hmm.
and not just a recruitment firm which caters to what is there in India, but globally. I think India is going to be the talent powerhouse, and considering that we are the talent enablers in India, we want to take that opportunity and take it global and be the global powerhouse in the space of talent in the next 5 years, for sure.
Absolutely fantastic to know. A global talent house from India. Can't get and can't agree more. Anuj Agrawal, thank you so much for being on this podcast, Sound of Money. And of course, best wishes to you and your team for the Workplace Awards that are coming up. May, as we say, it's going to be more than since you guys are into GCCs, I rather say not the Filmfare Awards of the GCC, but maybe the Hollywood Awards, the Oscars of the GCC. All the very, very best.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was so nice, wonderful conversation with you, Santosh. And I really hope you are also joining us in the Workplace Awards, and really looking forward to hosting you there.
Sure. Thank you so much. And well, with that, we come to the end of this episode of Sound of Money with me, Santosh Sirur, and my guest, Anuj Agrawal. Thank you once again for joining on in the Sound of Money. Thank you.